who is it that's telling us that it's bad? Why are we buying into it? Why can't we just live our lumpy lives?
For real.
Hello,
Welcome
or welcome back,
to the Womanly Podcast.
where we embrace womanhood in its entirety. From the hard and awkward conversations
To the silly and embarrassing moments.
an effort to reclaim and redefine what it means to be womanly in this crazy, wacky world. I'm Delana, the neutral one.
I'm Katie, the morbid one.
And I'm Madeline, the other one. And we're so excited that you've joined us today because there's room for you at our table.
So, grab your favorite drink and let's have a conversation.
Hey everyone, it's Madeline. Wanted to let you know that what you have clicked on today is a part 2 to a 2-part series about coming to terms with your age and how your body changes as a woman in your 20s and entering your 30s. Part 1 went up last week where we talk about our stories and how each of us have interacted with this and experienced this in our own lives. So I highly encourage you to go listen to that first if you've not already. We jump right into the content in this episode, and I hope that you learn something and that you feel a little bit less alone in whatever you've experienced. Just enjoy the episode, and we're glad that you came back.
I actually wrote down some specific things that happen in a woman's body when she's in her 20s that I thought were kind of fascinating. I think a lot of these are things that we've heard before, but then there are other things that are just like interesting facts that I've never heard before, and I thought we might go through that list.
Yes.
So the first one is that you get some extra curves. This is specifically because your weight starts distributing itself differently. I've always been...
Yes, I've noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, yes. Because, like, I haven't, like, gained fat, but, like...
It distributes differently.
But, like,
Your
my
body weighs
hips are bigger
differently.
than they once were,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting fact. I've always been a curvier person. And then, of course, as I've gained weight, it's added in different areas. But that one to me was kind of funny because I know I feel like I hit that point earlier than a lot of people do. But I know of people who are very slender by nature, and then they got into their 20s and their jeans don't fit the same way because they do have hips now. And I don't think that anybody really tells you that can happen even when you're 25, 26.
Yeah.
So
And not to mention that, like, whenever you have a kid, like your
Oh my God, yeah.
abs literally like split apart to
They
like
your rib
separate.
cage
Make-
expands.
to make room for all this stuff, and that takes a while to, if it ever goes back.
If
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Literally.
Okay,
It might
Katie
not
would
ever.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might not ever go back to how it used to be. That's gonna make your jeans fit different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Katie would know, by the way, because she's training to be a doula.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. If
it's
this
true.
is the first episode you come in on,
Yes.
that's why.
That's why Katie
It's-
would know.
Yeah, I've definitely heard bizarre things about how that feels, and women's bodies after birth are never the same, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Like,
Yeah.
you might not ever have the same body after you give birth, and honestly, that's so beautiful because of
I think so
you-
too.
yeah, honestly,
It icks me out
It
a little
is-
bit.
It freaks Madeline out.
All of it freaks. It's a conceptually an incredible thing, but whenever I get too far into thinking about it, it really icks me out.
it is an incredible mark on human nature that, I mean, you really do just leave your mark, but
I know.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Another thing that changes to women's bodies in their 20s is that their cramps get much worse.
Why is that?
What I read was that there is something that helps produce the lining in your uterus, that the production of it is more as you get into your 20s, and so therefore the shedding of
It's
your
more-
lining is more. That's more or less what I read, and I could be saying that
Butchering it.
wrong, but it was along those lines. I think it's just like getting to a point where you are even more fertile, or you're trying, you're at a point where your body is trying harder to create a hospitable environment for baby bearing. So I think that's kind of what I read about it. Your bones become stronger. So there's that.
What?
Your-
But you also
I
lose
didn't know
bone
that.
density.
as you get to your, like, as you round the corner to 30, that's when you start losing bone density. But in your 20s, your bones actually get stronger.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. So there you go.
Wow.
It's not all bad stuff. Some of it's good.
Maybe that's why I didn't bust my kneecap whenever I tripped.
Probably.
Because I'm like,
Oh my
You're like,
I was in
you're
so much pain.
peak bone strength right now, baby.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I was in so much pain, but I was like, it's not broken. Well, I mean, I guess it could have been, but I was still walking on it. So they say
Yeah.
if you can still walk
Yeah.
on it, it's not broken.
So, your face becomes slimmer.
I have noticed that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the baby weight thing, and I
Yeah.
did write down why, and that's because you have a decrease in subcutaneous fat and collagen. So
Oh,
you
wow.
actually will see your cheeks like hollow out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now, of course, if you're like the same as you're experiencing this, if you're the same weight throughout, like it's going to be a lot more noticeable to see those changes. But yeah, that's a thing that happens.
Yep.
And alongside that, your vulva also shrinks because of the subcutaneous
same
fat
reason.
decrease. Yeah. Not collagen, but your
Yeah.
subcutaneous fat decrease.
That is so interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Adult acne.
Yikes.
You will experience adult acne.
I have, but I feel like it's been more due to my gut issues.
Yeah. It could be.
I don't know. Could be both, but I've definitely had struggles with acne in my 20s that I never had.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
always, knock on wood, always had good skin. And
Yes.
then in my 20s, I was like,
Me too.
I never. And
Yeah.
then I have a friend who has struggled with acne, for a few friends actually who have struggled with acne most of their life. And they've just been like, really, this little bit that you have to deal with.
This
and
is
I'm
the
like,
end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have ever classified my, breakouts and stuff like that in high school as having been serious acne. I never went on medication for it or anything like
Yeah.
that. I think a lot of it was hormonal, and then also just being a teenager who had no idea on how to take care of her skin.
Mm-hmm.
But 45% of women between the ages of 21 and 30 report dealing with adult acne.
Wow.
Yeah, so almost half of the women
Yeah.
who were a part of that study in particular have experienced that or would claim that the issues that they've had would qualify as adult acne.
Yeah.
Wow.
That makes sense because a lot of hormone changes are going on, right?
Yeah,
And the majority of the acne that I've dealt with has been here, like on
in
my
the
neck.
hormonal zone.
Yeah, in the hormonal zone. And so that's probably why
Yeah,
it's come about.
interesting stuff. Cellulite. You don't start if you develop cellulite, you won't until you're in your 20s.
Oh, wow.
And it affects 90% of women. So there are 10% blessed few who don't struggle with cellulite. I don't actually have an issue with cellulite. It's so normal. It's just the way that our fat cells develop in our bodies at that age. So
See, that's
Yeah.
the one thing that I still struggle with.
Do you?
I'm like, yes, absolutely. I see cellulite on my body and I'm like, but every time I do, I'm like, it's normal. Your body is doing normal things.
Yeah.
Doing what
There's
it's
nothing
supposed to do.
wrong.
it's literally
It's
just how
normal.
your fat
It's
cells
good.
are.
I know. And it's just like, I mean, there's literally companies built off of, selling products that apparently get rid of cellulite.
Something that 90% of women
90%
of women
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Men don't have it because their fat cells actually they're different. Ours are like honeycomb and theirs are in lines.
Well, that's nice.
Well,
Wow.
they may not be in lines, but I know that they're different shapes, and the shape that ours collects in is what creates cellulite, or the appearance of what we call cellulite. So men don't. It doesn't appear that way on them.
I don't think Delena's wanting to hear this right now.
It's
That
not.
makes-
great.
Makes me
But-
so mad.
Well, but I mean, yeah, it's. To me, it's kind of like men don't experience it. 90% of women do. And it's just something that biologically is different between the genders or the sexes. And if 90% of women go through it, that means that the Kardashians have it if they haven't zapped it away. Or
Well, they have.
like any other normal ass woman on the planet. most likely has this. And so who is it that's telling us that it's bad? Why are we buying into it? Why can't we just live our lumpy lives?
For real. Yes. Why can't we just live our lumpy lives?
Yeah, let us live our lumpy lives. we got
I'm
lumpy butts, and we're not afraid of them.
I'm going to live my lumpy life.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the fullest.
This is something I'm going to have to work on.
Your sex drive improves. This was an interesting one for me because I felt like with your hormones and stuff in your teen years that it's like,
Yeah.
but apparently in your 20s, it's actually more so.
I've heard
for
that
women
hit like their sexual peak when they're like in their 40s, like going through menopause and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Also,
it's like a last ditch effort to get pregnant.
Well, and your hormones are going nuts then too because things are changing so much.
During pregnancy, there.
Yeah. Hormones, man.
Yeah.
I had definitely noticed higher sex drive until I got my IUD, and that totally killed my sex drive. And it's still like I have moments, you know, where I'm like a moment of clarity, you know.
Hormonal birth control do that.
Yeah. Other than that, it's totally killed my sex drive, and I'm still recovering from that, and it sucks.
I'm still recovering from it too.
Well, speaking of hormones, it's not all bad. Well, I guess it's not bad. Your menstrual cycle gets less unpredictable. So if you're somebody if you're somebody other than Lena who has struggled with irregular periods, there are chances that once you get into your 20s, because your hormones start evening out, that your cycle will become more regular.
Oh, mine is right on the clock.
Is it really?
Oh,
I have never been able to relate to that. Mine have always been irregular.
Really?
Always. And they're still irregular. They're even more irregular now that I have friggin' IUD. Well, I got it taken out.
Oh my gosh.
Aftermath.
Wow, that's interesting.
In your 20s, you'll experience increased vaginal discharge. I don't know what that's about, but
Probably hormones.
probably hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
Is it
have
weird
an
to say
epiphany?
that? It's weird to say that. I've noticed that. Yep.
Yeah. Totally normal.
Oh,
That makes me feel really good because
Yeah.
there were a few times where I was freaking out. I was like, what is wrong with me? What's
These
happening?
are things that nobody tells you about. Nobody talks
Literally,
about.
nobody talks about. Why does nobody talk about this stuff?
that this stuff is important to know. So we're gonna say the words out loud.
All I got talked to about was that I was going to have a period
Yep.
one day,
Yep. Once a month.
and to make sure I knew how to collect the blood properly. Look at my
Collect and dispose of it.
Yeah, collect and dispose of it. Yeah, that's... there's so much about my reproductive system that I don't know, but I also didn't go to school, so...
You did too.
I went to school, but like, I didn't finish, but I should have known by
If it
then,
makes you feel
actually.
better, they don't actually teach all that stuff.
Okay, well then, yeah,
You
I
just
know.
have to live and learn.
Like literally whenever I was having an issue with ovarian cyst, and I didn't know that ovarian cysts were normal. It's literally part of your cycle that you have cysts, and the cysts have an egg in them, and then you have a period, and eventually. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. But I did end up having a cyst that was a problem. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm hoping that it's gone away, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't felt it in a while, so.
You are more prone to STIs. I'm not sure.
Oh.
I'm not sure exactly why. I would assume it's because you're more likely to be more sexually
That
active
sounds
in your
like
20s.
confusion between correlation and causation.
Yeah, I would assume that's it, but it was on the list, so I'm sharing it. So if you research it, let us know.
I actually wonder how many of these things are a confusion between correlation and causation.
Well, no, a lot of them are actually scientific. Yeah, a lot of them are. That's the only one that I'm like, more susceptible to mental health issues. This one might also be that a little bit, just because at this point you're most likely in your 20s, potentially starting a family, you're married, job, like your responsibilities are just so much more than. So I would think that that's partly that, but at the same time, I don't think you can separate it as being an independent thing, if those are just the things that you're experiencing, mental health issues are going to be a bigger deal, or at least for me. Like I talked about how it became something that I was paying attention to because I couldn't not any longer. I think anxiety for me, or not, I know for a fact.
I actually think that that's why many people struggle with it in their 20s, is because it comes to a point where it's like, I can't any longer ignore what's coming to a head. You know?
Yeah. I know for a fact that my anxiety has been lifelong. So, but yeah, more susceptible to mental health issues in your 20s.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably also because you mentioned like starting a family and all of that, but also like you're now, along with those life events, you're now building your entire own life, whether you have a family or not, you know, that you're building. You're now separating yourself from how you grew up. And the more that you do that, the more that you're like, oh, things are different, cognitive dissonance, what is happening? And it causes a lot of turmoil internally that causes mental health issues and a lot of figuring out. And I think it's like an unboxing that happens in your 20s.
Yeah, and for me with anxiety, it was for me recognizing I felt this way for many years, but I thought it was because of being in school. I thought it was because of college. I thought it was because of grad school.
Yeah.
I thought it was because of finding a job and starting working full time while in grad school. And then once I was like removed from all those things I was pointing my finger at, and I was just working, but I was in a job that it was my dream job. I freaking loved it and everything was good. And I still was not well, that I was able to say, hold up. Like something's not right here. But all those years before, I was able to point at, I was pointing at hormones or, like bad relationships or friendships from years past or whatever else. And as I got into my mid-20s, all those things I was blaming it on went away, and life kind of settled a little bit into a good rhythm. And those things I was experiencing and dealing with not only still existed, but they were worsening for no reason that I could see. And then, oh, guess what? There's a reason.
Yeah.
And boy, buckle up. So,
yeah, see, that's where I'm like, okay, so it's not even really that they're dealing with mental health issues. That is also the case, but, dealing with mental health issues, but it's more people just get diagnosed in their 20s.
Discovering them.
Yes.
Well, but then at the same time, there's also like, if you are somebody who struggles with, or you are schizophrenic, there is scientific evidence that shows that for certain people that shows up in your 20s.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's a side of it that it is like we have looked at the population that falls under these particular things.
Yeah.
That it's most likely for men that it shows up at these ages, and most likely for women that it shows up at these ages. So I think anxiety and depression are kind of like, it comes in and out, or for some people, like for me, I don't think anxiety will ever leave.
So it's not most likely diagnosed at these ages. It's actually
like showing up. Sleep improves. This is largely because right? This is I was actually reading more into this, and this is largely because your body's more likely to want to fall asleep earlier and sleep in later.
Can't relate.
I can't either because I struggle. I have sleep disorder alongside my anxiety. So, but
yeah, I struggle with insomnia a lot. Also, I struggle with a husband who snores. And if I don't fall asleep before him, it's over for me.
Right.
That's how it's been the last couple nights, and I'm struggling. It's just one of those beautiful things.
I actually
marriage.
For most of my life, I was the person that I could fall asleep anywhere, anytime, not a problem. Lay on the floor, fall asleep. Sitting up in a chair, could fall asleep.
Wow.
Like I was just the person that I could fall asleep, and I would sleep hard. And it wasn't until the past like few years that I started actually struggling with my sleep for the first time.
Yeah.
Hard for me to go to sleep at night. And
Well, your gut issues are probably largely to blame for that.
Yeah. Gut issues. I feel like there were other things going on in my life that were causing
Well, stress and anxiety applies to it as well.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what they were, but yeah, that's been really weird for me because that was like the one thing that I felt like I could always depend on. Is I was like, I know I'll sleep good tonight because I always do, but then I didn't. I started not sleeping well, and now often I actually take Benadryl to help me sleep, and that knocks you out.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
Not me.
Doesn't knock
Even
you
whenever whenever I'm in my insomnia can be so extreme that
It's worse if you take sleeping meds.
Yes.
Yep.
but also I will literally go 5, 6, 7 nights in a row getting maybe an hour of sleep. Yeah.
Madeline.
Yeah.
How are you operating?
Well, it's not right now. I'm doing good. Like, it's whenever I'm like in as long as my anxiety is maintained and things are kind of like working out and everything, I'm good about my medication. I'm good about taking care of myself outside of just taking my medication and even just like having, tabs on where I'm at mentally and emotionally and trying to prevent myself from getting to that point. But whenever I'm at that point, and inevitably I get there, the insomnia comes in batches. Yeah. And it can be extreme to the point that I literally cannot function because I'm not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
And taking Benadryl, taking Z-Quil, taking any of those things does not work.
Yeah, melatonin stopped helping me. It used to help me.
You can't take melatonin every single night.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But the few times that I took it because I knew that if you took it all the time, you would become dependent. Like I knew all of that, and
it just stops working.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I only took it like once a week, maybe. Yeah. Maybe even that often. I did not take it that often at all because I didn't want to grow a dependency on it. Mm-hmm. And it still did nothing for me.
Melatonin is actually the only thing that does work for me, but I have to take the full dose, which is 10 milligrams. And if I do that, it better be a weekend because I'll be useless the next day. The other things on my list is like we've already mentioned, your hormones eventually settle down a little bit from puberty and all of that, and just your body developing to adulthood. And then also that you'll start experiencing muscle and bone loss toward your later 20s and getting into your 30s. So just interesting things that I noticed on those lists that I was like, some of these things you hear about, but interesting to know the real things.
Yeah.
But I think on top of that, we could talk about how even just whenever you're like as a woman, how much your body changes, not over 10 years, but every 3 weeks. Like with your cycle, your body is literally changing every single day.
Yeah.
So, it just got to be nice to yourself because your body's going to look different 2 days ago as it does in 2 days from now.
Yeah,
so.
Because you have a uterus.
Have you heard of the Infrarian Rhythm? The circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
The Infrarian Rhythm.
I've heard of the circadian rhythm. Mine freaking sucks.
Yeah, because you're a woman. You don't run off the circadian rhythm. You run on the Infrarian Rhythm, which is a 28-day cycle, not a 24-hour cycle. The circadian rhythm is a 24-hour cycle. And although, yes, we do kind of still run on that a little bit, our bodies primarily run off of the Infrarian Rhythm, which is a 28-day cycle.
I think I have heard that. I just didn't know the name for it.
I did not know that.
It has changed my life. Oh my gosh. It's why certain times you have a higher sex drive. It's why certain times it's easier to have an orgasm than other times. Certain times you lubricate easier than other times. It's all based on your infradian rhythm. And it's also plays into like certain weeks you'll be like, oh, I'm feeling really confident. And if you can really map it out and get on track with your infradian rhythm, which I haven't done yet, I haven't been meticulous enough about it. But if you are meticulous about it, there will be certain weeks where you'll feel like, man, I feel good. I feel confident. Blah, blah. I can conquer the world. Those are the weeks where, hey, you got a presentation to do. Try to schedule your presentation during those times because that's when you're going to be feeling the best.
Yes.
Other times, if you have that kind of control, you're going to be feeling weeks where you're just like you're feeling off. You're feeling not all there or whatever.
Every week.
and during those times, try to schedule work that's a little bit more behind the scenes, you know,
Right, yeah.
things like that if you can actually like track your infradian rhythm, you can build your life around it to the best of your ability.
Cool.
And actually like, it's so cool. I need to send you guys a video.
Yeah, ladies,
Yeah.
read up on that.
So cool.
That
Do
sounds
y'all-
like knowledge is power with that particular thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do y'all know all of the different names of our cycle?
No.
Because I didn't realize that until a couple years ago, which I'm kind of embarrassed to even admit this. I thought that your menstrual cycle was the only thing of your cycle and that's all that mattered.
Oh.
When actually,
I think this plays into the infradian rhythm.
Yes, it totally does. Because when you were saying that, I was like, oh, that's exactly what these are. So there's 4 phases of your menstrual cycle, and they are your menstrual phase, and then your follicular phase, and then your ovulation, and then luteal. And so when you were saying that, I was like, that is because every single week of your cycle
It's a different phase.
is different. And
Yeah.
I thought that the menstrual cycle was the only one that mattered, when actually it is like the other ones are just as important and play just as an important role as your menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like so eye-opening when I learned that, because I was like, wow, like you literally feel different things. Like
Yeah.
if you just think about it, like every week of your life
Uh-huh.
is a different cycle. You feel different, your body needs different things.
Yes.
Like so
Yes.
if you get on track with it, you will feel like you're on top of the world because you understand what your body's going through.
Yes.
That's incredible. And the thing that I think of whenever I hear all that is that I was 10 whenever I started my period.
I know.
I was
Yeah.
10, and like to go through 15, 16, 17, 18 years of your life before you fully understand what that whole situation like means, that's crazy. That's a third at that point, that's 2/3 of your life basically experiencing something that you don't fully understand.
Yeah.
Because nobody really teaches it to you whenever you first, and maybe there are some of you who are listening that it's like you knew all of this when you started your period, and if that's the case, bless whoever it was that taught you, because I wish that I had that. No shade to anybody who is teaching me these things. I just don't think that anybody really knows how to talk about it or wants to talk about it, because it's such a taboo thing to talk about. Menstrual cycles, God forbid, half the population goes through it, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's literally the reason any of us are here.
Yeah. You're
but,
welcome.
Yeah. I mean, like literally 18 years of my life, and it's been this year that I'm starting to fully understand. I haven't even accessed the full power of what that means, but
And so what you're talking about, Katie, and the infradian rhythm is just putting a name to that 4-phase cycle.
Yes.
yeah.
Because, okay, so this breakdown is like menstrual phase, 1 to 7 days. It tells you this is your slowest energy days. Slow down and look inward. Write down monthly goals. How to exercise during this phase: gentle yoga, Pilates, and walking. And then follicular phase is 8 to 13, more energy and brain power, time to problem solve, try a new social activity, schedule a work meeting, what to eat, protein and veggies, how to exercise, intense workouts like heavy weight and HIIT workouts. Ovulatory phase, you're feeling confident, have a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. I must be in that all the time because I'm always willing to have a difficult
always ovulating.
High impact workouts, group classes like spinning. And then luteal phase, attention turning inward, time to nest and spend time at home, check off to-do lists, how to exercise, stretching, and restorative yoga.
You know why that is?
No.
The last one is because if your body has made a baby, you need to rest, and you're going to want to nest. If you've conceived, your body's naturally going to slow down and want to do slower activities.
Wow. I also would imagine.
That's so fascinating.
and
I'm like
this
getting
is-
chills. It's so
Well,
fascinating.
I also would imagine it's like your body has literally just like done this crazy like
thing that you just
Like, what
you
do
have
snakes
no
do?
idea.
They molt or whatever.
Yeah,
like they
they
shed their
shed.
skin. That's literally what you do on a monthly basis. We're all snakes. It's fine.
It's okay. We're
Inside.
fine.
Like you're losing so many body fluids. Like there's your body goes through something literally brutal.
And it's not producing extra. That's not
No.
extra blood that it's producing.
No,
And
that
you're
is-
literally just losing
Yes.
blood.
So
Just that alone. I mean, what do they give you after you give blood?
I know.
They give you food and stuff to bring your energy up because you just lost a bunch. That's what we're living in
It
for like
takes-
a week.
It takes a while for your body to produce enough, cells to replace the red blood cells or whatever to replace that. I think it is important for you to take it easy whenever you're like not feeling well because your
Yes.
body is doing something crazy.
Insane. And before we move on from this topic, I just want to know, what is it like to run on a 24-hour cycle?
know.
Like every day you just wake up and you're like
Cool.
a reset?
Yeah.
Never could I relate to that ever. Like, no wonder it's been hard to stick to, okay, a freaking 40-hour work week of all things. Not that I haven't stuck to it. I work, okay? But like, it's hard. I feel like it's extra hard. And I have literally, ever since I learned about the Infrarian Rhythm, I'm like, I want to build a company that like runs off of, everybody gets to run off their Infrarian Rhythm.
Yeah,
Any
it's like they're
woman that
living-
is hired can run off their Infrarian Rhythm.
Delana.
All the men can run off their lucky little circadian rhythm.
Well, it's like I am the way I'm picturing it in my mind is that men literally get that 24-hour clock, whereas we are working on a much larger clock with much longer hands and a lot more little ticks on the sides to
We're like
to
one
get
of those
around.
clocks that has like 3 or 5 other tiny clocks
Yeah.
inside of it.
Yeah,
You know
but
what
it's
I'm
not even
saying?
24 hours.
Yes.
It's however many hours are in 4 weeks. I'm not going to do that
Yeah.
math.
Hey Siri, how many hours are in 4 weeks?
4 weeks is 672 hours.
There you go.
672-hour
That's
clock.
how long
Thank
it
you
takes
very
us
much.
to go through a cycle.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Women
I
are
guess it's technically
amazing.
every week is a new cycle, but so maybe it's a week of hours.
No, it's just a different phase in the cycle.
Yeah, okay, then
Yeah.
672 hours. So their clock is 24 hours and ours is the
Yeah. So
Much
give us a little
larger.
bit of grace and patience and maybe praise us a little bit.
yeah. And it's just another tool in the handbag of understanding why
Yeah.
men and women are so different
So different.
because we
And I'm
literally run
coming-
off of completely different clocks.
And
Yeah.
I'm coming to like not only learn that, but appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like it's not just, I think that there's this mentality that like, oh, if you don't run on a 24-hour clock or if you're not anything like a man in some way, you are less,
it's like keep
you
up,
are less
keep up
than.
or catch up or whatever.
Keep up or catch up. Yeah.
No,
And
they're less than.
and I and now I'm just learning, I am actually internally changing that like that is not less than that. It's just different.
It's
and
just
it's
different.
beautiful in its own
and
right.
different is
Yeah.
okay.
And I really feel like if we can align ourselves with our bodies, man or woman, it's a really powerful thing. Like,
Yeah.
and especially if opposite genders can understand that from each other and use it to the best of their advantage
yep.
on
You
both
know-
sides, it would just be, we would be freaking powerhouse in this
Yes.
world.
And there is an app that I've used before where you can clue your partner in on exactly how you're feeling and what
Oh, that's
stage of your
cool.
cycle you're in, and they can try to work with you and partner with you on
What?
that. And
What
I
is
think,
it? Flow?
I do think it actually is Flow.
Flow
Okay.
is the one, they are huge on educating about the Infrarian Rhythm.
Well, I would love to talk about what a woman's care team should consist of.
Yes.
So I made a list, and of course, depending on, this is just kind of like a baseline. It may feel really extensive, but every single person on this list is important. You need to have a good primary care doctor, and I've known a lot of people. You need to have a good primary care doctor and a good gynecologist, and you need to
Yes.
have both.
Yes.
I've known a lot of people who have used their primary care doctor for all of their gynecological needs. And then I've known a lot of people who have used their gynecologist, OBGYN. They use that for their primary care. And you need to have both because they
Mhm.
specialize. The primary care is a person who's going to be able to help you through every general question you could possibly imagine. They're going to be the one that does your yearly screenings for your cholesterol, blood pressure, all of that. They're going to be checking your annual blood panels and all of that. And your gynecologist is the person who is very much specialized
And educated
in your women care, in your breasts, and your reproductive system and all of that. So hands down to me, those are your non-negotiables. You have to have those. A dermatologist. I have not found a dermatologist. This is one that's on my list, but annual, just like skin screenings, just to make sure.
So important.
One of those things, skin cancer, is that like a lot of cancers, you kind of get to an age and it's like, this is when you start paying attention to them. But skin cancer can affect anybody. So having a good dermatologist that you can call up, maybe you don't see, I think you should see them every year and just have a once over check. Just to make sure that everything's good.
I've never been to a dermatologist.
I'm going for the first time in my whole life in November.
Yeah.
So
good for you.
I've been in the past, but it's been on my list, and I really should have gone before COVID, but it's one of those things I put off, and especially through the pandemic. So, but yeah, dermatologist I think should be on everybody's list. Dentist and eye doctor, I feel like most people tend to check those boxes, but maybe not. You should be going to the dentist every 6 months and then the eye doctor every year.
Oh, I don't go to the dentist as often as I should.
Yeah. I hate going to the dentist, but I still go every 6 months.
That's good.
And then a mental health care professional. And of course, this may not be a consistent every week, every month, every year kind of thing, but at least to have in your mind that might be a necessary portion of your annual or regular care team.
Yeah.
Is a mental health professional.
I would like to add one.
Sure.
I think that you should have a dietitian or a
nutritionist.
Very, very dietitian and nutritionist are not interchangeable, by the way.
No.
Dietitians, they have to, this is something I learned over the past year, they go through nearly the same amount of extensive training as a full-on doctor does, but they're just taught to treat you with diet. A nutritionist can be just as good as a dietitian and just as knowledgeable as a dietitian can be, but it's also a little bit more volatile in that you never really know what you're going to get, because the training for a nutritionist, almost anybody can become a nutritionist with a little bit of training, can become a certified nutritionist. So just be careful whenever you're seeking out nutritionists. That I have a nutritionist / doctor. She is a doctor, but she's not a dietitian, but she's also a nutritionist. So, she is very, very knowledgeable. So I definitely am not discounting nutritionists because she has changed my
you just gotta
life.
find what fits best. And a lot of times your primary care, most likely in their office, they have one or the other.
Just have a dietitian or a nutritionist of sorts that can help you with gut stuff.
Well, and there is actually the list that I was looking at for the care team was that a gastroenterologist, which is a doctor who specializes in your gastrointestinal system.
I did not have a good experience with mine.
Well, it's not really totally recommended for you to start seeing somebody regularly who specializes that until you're in your late 40s. So, like, I think it's good to seek out somebody like a nutritionist or a dietitian or something like that, especially if you are recognizing that your body's not interacting with food the way that it maybe should be.
Yes.
Having diarrhea every day is not normal. And being constipated every day is not normal.
No.
Ideally, you're somewhere in the middle. So
you should be pooping at least once a day. At least.
At
okay,
least.
guys?
So,
if you're not doing that, go see a doctor.
And guys, you know what? Google, as scary as Google gives you the answers, sometimes it's okay to just ask, is this normal?
Yes.
And if it starts showing you scary things, don't immediately jump to the worst conclusion, but at least let that be your answer, that it's okay for you to look into it a little bit more and talk to a doctor about it.
Yeah.
But if you're Googling something at the same time, if you're putting it into Google, you probably should just go ahead and go see a doctor about it, because you've already decided that it's worth Googling.
Yes, that it's worth looking into.
Right, that it's a little bit weird.
Yes. I actually really like my primary care physician because I told him once, I made a joke. I was like, I promise I didn't Google it. So I'm just asking this. These are based off of things that I've noticed. And he's like, no, it's okay. He's like, I have no problem with people Googling things, actually. He's like, because...
Yeah, just don't come to me convinced that you have kidney cancer.
Because he's like, people want to feel that their healthcare is in their own hands. And that's a little way that they're looking into things themselves and
Yeah.
if nothing else, feeling like they're doing their own research. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And so he's like, it's fine with me. If you want to Google stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So
And I would like to add one. I don't think it's ever too early to pay attention to your heart health, especially if
that's
you
so
have
good.
a
Yes.
history
Cardiovascular.
of family members who have had heart attacks or blood clots or whatever that is that could lead to worse.
Yep.
I will definitely be paying attention to my heart health from here on out.
Yeah.
I do have a history. There is family history of heart attacks in my family on
Mine
both
too.
sides. So, yeah, I would say if that is part of your family history, please don't ignore that.
No. And a lot of times things like that can be monitored just by your primary care physician, and then they can
Yeah.
recommend you to a specialist like a
Mhm.
cardiovascular or gastroenterologist or whatever else that's needed based on what they're seeing. But a lot of those things, that monitoring is done by your primary care physician. Yeah. Anyway, if you don't know how to find these doctors, a lot of times if you have insurance, usually you can go on the website and find somebody that's in network, or maybe you might, if it's insurance through work or whatever else, there's probably resources that can help you find somebody. Insurance obviously makes things a lot easier and a lot more affordable to do these care items. If you don't have insurance or you're not as capable of accessing these resources as possible, I think at the very least, just trying to see a doctor as regularly as you can is important, just for that preventative care. So obviously take a look at what that looks like for you and figure out what your options are. Alongside those doctors, your annual screenings that you should get as a woman with your OBGYN is to get a pap smear and a pelvic exam. Pap smear, I think, is every 3 years. Pelvic exam is every year. And then a breast exam. Now, this is something that your doctor does, but also it's something that you can do at home. So I would recommend that you get on your phone, Google. I think Mayo Clinic has some information on this and other websites do as well. But I would just research what it looks like to do your own self-exam. And just every week or so, just check and make sure that everything looks good. I didn't know until I was seeing a OBGYN frequently that breast exams include your armpits. I had no idea, but it does, because you can find breast cancer in your armpits. So that was fascinating to me. And then like we talked about with the dermatologist skin checks, you can do that at home as well. So it's nice to have somebody who's really educated check things out, but sometimes it's just nice for you to take a look at it yourself, get used to seeing the moles and the marks on your skin, and then keeping an eye on them every month, every week, just to see if they change or something else new comes up that you've never noticed before. And then you can see a dermatologist to get that checked. But some of these things you can do at home for free. So I would just Google it, see what that looks like, try to get in a routine with it, do it frequently and regularly. And then you're able to kind of catch some things on your own.
Yeah. You can also ask your gynecologist to show you how to do a breast exam. I just learned that this last time. I didn't like the gynecologist that I saw, but she did. She was like, do you do breast exams regularly? And I was like, no. She's like, have you ever done one? And I was like, no. And she's like, do you want me to show you how? And I was like, it sounds like I should.
Yeah.
Yes. And so she did. She showed me how. She told me all the things to look for and how often to do it right after your period and stuff like that. So you can also, like, next time you see your gynecologist, but just be like, hey, I heard I was supposed to do breast exams regularly and I don't know how to do one. Can you tell me?
The thing I actually didn't make a note on, but Katie brought up, is family history. Know your family history.
That's good.
If you can, know it. Whenever you go in to fill out the paperwork at a doctor's office, put it all down there. They're not going to use it for any nefarious purposes. I've heard people, and I've been advised not to put every single thing on there.
Really?
But it's important. They're asking those questions for a reason, not just to get like a full TSA level, NSA level file on you, but to understand what sort of things that they're dealing with genetically and all of that. So know your family history as much as you possibly can, and make sure that you're putting that information down whenever you go to a new doctor, or even just updating your doctor whenever you hear of new things, because that information is important for them to know in order to help prevent things or keep an eye on things.
Yeah.
My number one tip is that in your 20s, your skin is remembering everything you do to it and everything you don't do to it.
Amen, sister. Use that retinol.
Wear your sunscreen.
Wear your
And
sunscreen.
stop picking at your skin.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stop. It remembers everything you do and everything you don't do. And your skin is the biggest organ on your body.
Mm-hmm.
It's also taking care of it I don't care how much money you spend on fancy creams. Just take care of your skin in the simplest ways, and it will take care of you.
Yes.
Wearing sunscreen is the best anti-aging thing you could possibly do for yourself.
It is. 80% of your aging comes from the sun, not age.
And wear your sunscreen on your hands and on your arms, but your hands start showing age first. I will say, in my late 20s, I'm already starting to see aging on my hands. So wear sunscreen everywhere, not just on your face.
And I'm 30 and I can tell my hands are getting old.
Yeah, especially your face, neck, and décolleté.
Yeah, your chest area down to your
chest area.
Everything you do to your face, you should do from your hairline to your nipples.
Yes.
As Susan Yara likes to say.
Yeah, and especially if you freaking use retinol, please pack on that sunscreen.
Yes, it makes your skin sensitive.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just started using
retinol. Speeds up the cellular turnover in your skin, so it's like exposing new skin faster, in which if the sun hits that, it's going to damage it a lot quicker because it's like this new baby skin coming to the surface. So wear your sunscreen if you're using retinol.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But wear your sunscreen if you're not using retinol.
Yeah. Probably every woman needs to see a gut health specialist on some regard. Because there's a lot of people that I know, even men and women, that are like, oh yeah, it's normal. And I'm like, that's not normal.
Well, and did you know that your brain health or your mental health is it's more tied to your gut than it is your brain?
Yes. But specialists are starting to call it your second brain.
Yeah.
Because it informs so much of what goes on up here. And so they are so interwoven that you can have anxiety issues and you'll be like, oh, I've tried everything to get rid of my anxiety except see a gut specialist.
Change your diet.
The only thing that helped me get rid of my anxiety was solving my gut issues.
Yeah.
Not that I never experienced anxiety, but now it's like the normal anxiety.
Well, there's nobody who doesn't experience anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm going to rant for half a second because I'm freaking tired of seeing people saying like, oh, this rain today gave me a boost of serotonin. No, it did not. Your serotonin is developed in your intestines and the rain has nothing to do with that. So get it right. What you're talking about is dopamine, most likely. But yeah, I mean, if you want a good boost of serotonin, take care of your gut, girl. That's where it starts.
That's where it starts. Yep, it's true.
Okay, Katie.
Wow.
Katie's like, I don't have it.
She's like,
I'm just intaking.
Yeah, intake, girl. If you have a tip, you can give one. If not, it's fine.
Yeah, it's whatever.
I think my biggest tip for those of us who are entering our 30s or, it's coming up. I really do think that we're going through so much life change and lots of things happening mentally and emotionally. And I really do think that you should consider seeing a therapist because no matter how happy you are, it's still really, really nice just to sit down with someone and talk about life.
Yeah. Therapy is like exercising. The more you do it, the easier things are. And it's not like if you're a bodybuilder, you're not going to just quit going to the gym whenever you're exactly where you want to be. When everything's good and easy, you're at the best spot you've ever been in your life, you don't quit doing it.
No.
So therapy is the exact same thing. It's just exercise for your mental health, your spiritual health. And it's never too late to start. It's never a bad time to go. Definitely go when things are bad. But
definitely go when things are good.
Definitely go.
Yes. because the gut health works the other way too.
Yeah.
If you're all messed up here, it can affect your gut. So
That's what I largely experience.
yeah. Yeah. Mine was the other way around.
Yeah.
I think it's a system that feeds itself.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it is one vicious circle.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've talked enough. We're just going to go ahead and close this out. So as always, and again, wear your sunscreen.
Be kind to yourself.
And drink your water.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us again for this week's episode of the Womanly Podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media to hang out with us in between episodes and see pieces of our conversations that we don't get to include in these episodes, plus all of our bloopery humanness. We're on Instagram at Womanly Pod and TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter at Womanly Podcast. We hope to hang out with you more there. Have a super womanly week.